Call to order the Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 meeting of the Wethersfield Planning and Zoning Commission. Joe, would you please do the roll call?
Yes. Rich Roberts is here. Ryan Allard.
Here.
Joe Hammer here. Jim Hughes. George Oikel.
Here.
Tom Deane.
Here.
Tony Homicki.
Here.
Dave Edwards.
Here.
Michael Vieira. David Drake.
Here.
Peter Lambruni. Paul Thompson.
All right, thanks. We have, I think, 7 regular members and 1 alternate, so I'll seat Dave Drake as the alternate for both of the public hearings tonight. And if one more person comes, I'll seat them as well. We have 2 public hearings tonight. The way we run the public hearings is first the applicant comes up, identify themselves by the name and address for the record, tell us what it is they're proposing to do. There'll probably be some back and forth and questions from the commission. After that, we'll open it up to members of the public who want to comment on the application. We ask that the comments be directed to the commission, not as a dialogue with the applicant or other members of the public. Following the public comment, we'll invite the applicant to come back up and address any issues that might have been raised during the public comment, any other issues that members of the commission have. If after that we believe we have enough information to intelligently act on the application, we'll vote to close the hearing and deliberate on it and act on it. If there are open issues or additional information that's required, we'll continue the hearing to the next meeting, but we'll specifically identify what it is that we need in order to, to resolve the issues. So with that, first public hearing, 213823Z, Andy Sanzaro seeking a special permit in accordance with Section 5.2 of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for outdoor dining at 181 and 189 Main Street.
Okay. Andy Sanzaro, 72 Broad Street, Wethersfield, Connecticut. I'm here tonight applying for the special permit that would give us a permanent patio seating for dining and drinking in accordance, just similar to what's been approached to you guys by the Charles, Lucky Lou's, et cetera.
Okay. You've given us a summary of your application. Denise has given us a memo dated March 31st, including copies of prior permits and approvals. Is there anything in your memo that we need to be aware of at this point?
So essentially, they are asking for 7 tables and 31 seats. They have received HDC approval. Really, the only thing that you should take into consideration additionally is they would be seeking a parking waiver in association with the outdoor seating. You do have the authority to grant that approval. They do have about 10 spaces in the rear currently. So they've made that request in association with this application.
How many spaces would be required otherwise, in addition to what is already there?
For the outdoor dining specifically, it's not based on the 1,000 square foot ratio, so let me just.
We don't have to look for that now. We'll
That's right
get
here.
back to it.
Just to be clear, though, the 7 and 31, that's something that they're already operating under,
Yes.
still with town permission? So we're just,
This is What they had in the previous years was submitted during the COVID protocol, so
Yeah.
they're looking to
Okay.
formalize the outdoor dining approval that they have. So yes, they have been operating with outdoor dining for the past several years with no parking associated.
Okay. But
Can
we're
I-
not talking about like
Can I
any
just add
operational
something to that?
change.
The 31 comes from, the previous tenant was the restaurant, and they had 31 seats. So if we went back a year, it would be basically nothing more than what we had on the inside, just looking to move it to the outside seasonally, obviously. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Luna's has no seats, right?
They just have a couple in between in their foyer area, yeah.
All right,
But that's accounted for in my seating capacity.
okay. And you have the three questions here in your memo. Will table service be provided to the outdoor seating for food and beverages? Will outdoor trash receptacles be provided? And the comment, the applicant's not proposing any additional on-site parking. So you know the answers to the first two questions?
As far as table side service, it's a self-service type thing where our customers either go to Luna's, get their food and bring it out, or come back inside to the Old Town and bring out their drink to the table. So it's not as hands-on type thing as, going back and forth with table service. Yes, trash receptacles will be provided for sure. And what was the third question? I'm sorry.
Those were the two.
Oh, the two? Oh, I'm good then.
And the
Okay.
last one was just a comment about additional
The
parking.
parking, okay.
And in terms of the seating, the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve outdoor dining in 2015, and I believe there were 29 seats. And then the zoning enforcement officer, as part of the permit issued in 2020, did issue a permit for 31 seats.
So did the 2015 one expire, because it says it was until September
Yeah.
30th, 2016?
That was my fault for not reapplying, obviously.
And just during COVID, I guess my understanding, I just want to make sure I'm right, is that, essentially,
There are
the
no
COVID
rules.
order trumped all
Yeah.
local zoning, so parking was not a consideration or anything about zoning, right? So the zoning enforcement officer had the authority under that to do what he did in 2020?
It came through a zoning officer permit, not a special permit through P&Z, yes.
But none of that's still in play, the governor's saying.
Right.
It is right now until
Yeah.
April 30th, and whether
Oh,
or not, I
April
guess it'll be extended, I don't know.
So I guess one,
And then
what
my
I-
colleague next to me has his hand up.
Yeah, and you did too. I was going to call on you next.
I was just going to say, so the most recent permit that I recall we did for Luna Pizza specifically, so did that one get renewed November 16th, 2022?
So this would be for the property, not
For
for
the
the
whole-
business specific, it wouldn't.
Okay, and I guess I just note, that one says no food service from the applicant, which I think was the pizza place outdoors after 8. So how does that relate to what the applicant here is looking for in terms of hours?
I mean, I think this is more similar to the outdoor dining application that you just saw for Doro a few weeks ago, where they're just not providing the wait staff of the table itself, but you could bring food out there. Obviously, if there's stuff left out, I would imagine they would clean it up.
Or maybe a better question, so were there conditions of approval on the Luna Pizza in terms of just what their hours of operation were, period? I don't see them in the condition.
No.
Okay. How late is Luna open?
Usually about 10 o'clock or so, 9
Okay.
o'clock on, the slower nights.
Okay.
I heard you mention 8 o'clock. In this application, we're just looking for, like I said, similar hours to what is on Main Street with the Charles and Lucky Lou's as far as terms of outside seating.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some clarification, see if I understand things correctly. In the aggregate, it sounds like what the applicant is essentially seeking to do if you ignore for the moment the issue of the parking and the parking waiver, is to have this site continue its operation under a special use permit to do essentially what they've been doing pursuant to the governor's executive order.
That's correct.
And that's, so there's no real significant change in terms of their current practice pursuant to that order from what they wish to be able to do. It does mean some modifications then to the special use permit that was granted back in 2015. Now, this application is for the Old Town Cafe and this specific address. That's correct, not Luna Pizza.
The applicant is Old Town Cafe, but it is for the property at 181, 189 Main, not specific to Luna or Old Town. It would be for either, or whatever tenant, I guess, you know.
Okay. Now, wasn't there some issue, and this is some informal communications that I've heard about issues of there being servicing alcoholic beverages in the absence of food, and that the primary purpose for the permit is to serve food in an outdoor setting, not alcoholic beverages, and that alcoholic beverages is simply an accessory use to the provision of food.
Wasn't that a COVID rule, though?
Is
I mean, we don't regulate that specifically.
okay.
I know that, though, that was like a COVID thing where like you couldn't sit and have a drink without having food with
Right.
it, so, but I don't, that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I was just getting some clarification on that, because I wasn't sure.
George?
Yeah, the 11 o'clock thing, you're requesting that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want what everybody else has. I mean, I think
That's
it's
what I thought you'd want.
10 o'clock during the week. It's actually been 11 o'clock in deference to our neighbors, trying to be good neighbors, which obviously is a main goal of ours. We've closed at 10 o'clock even on the weekends. We haven't even used it till 11 o'clock, so.
So you do want at 10 o'clock.
I do want at 10 o'clock, yeah,
Thank you.
so.
Anybody else on this side? Anything else before we open it to the public? All right, anybody in the public want to comment on this application? Come on up.
Good evening. Rob O'Connor, 180 Main Street, Laryngitis. I'm glad the applicant mentioned neighbors. I am a neighbor, but my comments here, I've lived there 7 years in Old Wethersfield in the village, and I think I've tried to live by the spirit of the place, which is to make it better. I don't think I'm the old man, get off my lawn kind of neighbor, but the property that's looking for this special exemption, I think that you should really put this off until the COVID rules expire and the issue of alcohol can get taken up as a unit, as its own thing. Because what this is the food is not the issue. The food is kind of like the Trojan horse of expanding the bar outside. 31 seats of people outside drinking on that street for tourists going up and down, for kids walking up and down the streets, for the neighbors who, 10 o'clock, I can count on my hand the time that I don't hear people out there after 10 o'clock. Last night, which was great because UConn won, probably 1:30, 2 in the morning, people were screaming. I made notes, but I don't want to jump around. The one thing about trash receptacles, my lawn is a trash receptacle, my neighbors' lawns are trash receptacles. The place does not get picked up. The flowers in the vases that they promised for the HDC are empty. It's a bar, it's a good bar, but it should be an inside bar. It's not like Lucky Lou's and the Charles. Those places have a maitre d', they have table service, and most importantly, they have an on-site owner or manager who really is enforcing the rules and who cares about it. There's nobody there at night when I have to call, and my kids or my grandkids are there with people, I don't want to go into what they're doing, swearing, outside urination, not caring who's outside with their cars. I feel like all I'm doing is complaining. My goal is to be very positive tonight. But I think as a commission, it's already been brought up. What is the story here? Is this one business, two businesses, a restaurant, a bar restaurant? I think that the planning and zoning rules have to be looked at this, and I think it's good to take a breath and consider this as one application. I said that when you approved Luna, and Luna did have an 8 o'clock curfew. I don't think it's been enough time to really test, but once in a while there'll be people out there with pizzas, but the majority of people out on those tables are drinking, and it's self-service, which I don't know what the legal ramifications are, people being able to walk into a bar or walk into that property, and not everybody card them, not everybody check out who's drinking and driving away drunk. So I think it's good in the way that it is, but an expansion of that place, when you think of 31 people, I think the only time I saw one of the politicians, I don't know whether one of them sitting on the council, had a political event there. If there's 35 people there, it's a real affront to, I think, the whole character of the village and the neighbors there. And, we realize we bought where we bought, and we still love it, but I think that there has to be some semblance of fairness. One of my neighbors is a business, a bed and breakfast, that has people sleeping and paying big bucks to come into Wethersfield and spend money. And the stories that they get, people screaming at night, it's not going to be quieter there, because people are not going to, like Lucky Lou's, they're going to have a meal and have a drink with their meal. This is go have 3 beers and maybe have a slice of pizza. It's not the same thing. I really think you really should consider a different use for it. The sidewalks are tight there, and sometimes with 31 people, they're drinking, people wheeling their kids back and forth. They're not going to, it can be a seemly kind of a setup, and it's pretty regularly. And I had concerns about traffic, the noise, the 10 o'clock curfew, the 8 o'clock curfew. My point with no owner sitting there, there's nobody there enforcing that. They can say, we're going to close down at 10, or we're going to have the tables off at 8. I'm the only person, and my neighbors and the people that are out there walking legitimately are the people that are like, they're out here at 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, doors open, music's too loud. It's time to, this is the perfect time to kind of look at this and make a plan, not just ask questions about how many parking spots there are going to be, because that really does not matter to this thing. It's really not the point. And I think it's the proximity to the museums and some of the other things are just a deterrent to the village character. If I had a smoking cigarette butt collector, I could collect probably 20 butts a day, and they're not coming from, I don't smoke, my neighbors don't smoke, the street. The people there are not controlled, and I think it's a hard task for a bar. Lucky Lou's has the same problem. You go outside in front and there's cigarette butts all over. But I think these things should be part of any kind of passage of a special permit. There should be some restrictions, and there should be some things about parking and noise and other things in general, not just like it's food, it's drink, nobody knows. Go ahead, take it. It's not a good thing. So I think that was my main things there. And mostly that if a place doesn't have a liquor license to sell on a patio before COVID's over, wait till April 30th or after April 30th and consider it as a true thing, not a Trojan horse way to get a bar expanded outside and into the village. So it's not like the Charles and Lucky Lou's. Lucky Lou's had to shut their music down because one person complained about the noise there. So just as a reference, it really should be looked at as part of the whole village, and I think that's your guys' job. So good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else in the public have any comments?
Hi there. My name is Christine Kelly Lasella. I'm here today. Do you need my address? 37 Belmont Street, Wethersfield, Connecticut.
Your date of birth and your mother's name?
Do you need my ID?
No.
I'm here today to speak in favor of the permanent approval for the patio at 181, 189 Main Street for the Old Town Cafe and Luna Pizza. I'm a 37-year employee of the Old Town, but I'm also here as a patron, a neighbor, and a resident of this town. I've lived here my entire life. I watched my father buy that bar in the 70s and, made it what it is today, and Andy became his partner, and both of them have worked very hard to stay the neighborhood bar. I don't know if anybody knows, some of you guys might know, prior to the Old Town moving to its current space in the 60s, it was where Firehouse Company 1 is. It was called Duffy's Tavern. That was early 1900s. There's always been a pub, a tavern, a bar, whatever people like to refer to it as. But there's always been something there. Unfortunate that a neighbor might have moved in 2016, and he chooses not to want to enjoy maybe what the Old Town has to offer. People come for food, drink, camaraderie, friendships. But he did choose to purchase a property across from a bar, a restaurant, a firehouse. And I think kind of what Andy said before, we're looking for the same approvals that the Charles, Lucky Lou's, Village Pizza, quite frankly. You can go sit and have a beer and have a piece of pizza. I'm disappointed about the negative comments. The Old Town does not sell alcohol to go in plastic cups. I do know that Charles has done so. Whether that falls under COVID guidelines is not for me to say. Cigarette butts, I live on Belmont Street. I found 5 cigarette butts and 4 nippers of Captain Morgan the other day. I run the town. I see a lot of that. It is unfortunate that people choose to litter. I can only comment that I've even seen customers go to other restaurants. They can park wherever they want, and they've parked in front of the Old Town, went to another restaurant, came back, stood out front, smoked cigarettes, and threw them on the ground in front of the Old Town. They weren't our customers. I take a lot of pride. I'm there usually 3-4 days a week, and if a customer who is new to our place goes out front to smoke, I immediately go find them. I ask them to go in the back, which was something you guys had an agreement with Andy about, having customers go in the rear of the building. I've had people say, well, I can smoke on the other side of the sidewalk, and I say, well, then you're not coming back here. And that's the kind of place we run. We take a lot of pride in it, and we do respect our town and our neighbors. And I just want that to be clear, because I don't like the picture that's trying to be painted here by somebody who doesn't choose to come or doesn't choose to support us. And that's okay. But it's not fair to the people that we have. We have a number of respectable people in our community. We have firefighters, we have law enforcement come, we have had politicians, we have white collar, blue collar, we have had retirement parties from insurance companies. It's not a college frat house that it's being made out to look like, and I don't think at any given time there's going to be 32 masses of people. I think there's going to be families that come to Luna and want to sit out with their kids on the patio and enjoy the scenery of Old Wethersfield, just like they do with the Charles and Lucky Lou's. No, we're not as upscale. We're the neighborhood bar, but everybody knows your name, and if they don't, they're going to know it before you leave, because that's the kind of place we are. Everyone is really welcoming, and it's not a party atmosphere. So I guess that's really what I wanted to say. I'm in full support of it, and I can stand by what I do there and what some of the other girls that I work with and what Andy as an owner does, and he is present there. So I'm not sure where this story of there's never anybody present there, and even if I'm not working, I'm still there, and I make sure things get taken care of. So thank you for considering this, and I hope that you give us the regard that the other businesses are allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public want to comment on this application? There's one piece of correspondence from Rich Bailey. On the record, I would like to speak in favor of the Old Town's application for outdoor dining. Yeah. Anybody else in the public before we call the applicant back up? Okay, come on.
So, brief history. When Mr. O'Connor moved in, he somehow got my cell phone, which was great, because he would call me and let me know, this was before I got my security cameras, that somebody was on the patio at 10 o'clock, and I would take care of it, call the girls or whatever. Our communication kind of stopped when we were plowing snow one day at 4:30, and he told me we shouldn't be doing that while all of Main Street was getting snow plowed at 4:30. It just so happened. So ever since then, he has not really directly contacted me. And I'm a little miffed, I'm a little Papa Bear defensive that he would paint a picture of the grounds not being kept. My son takes care of the grounds. My son, if you ask anybody in town, is probably the most thorough, respected landscaper in this town, and I'll put that to any test. So I would appreciate you not disparaging that to my sons. Yes, there's no flowers in the beds. It's wintertime. I understand that. We comply with what's what. I'm just going to take this one step further because it appears Mr. O'Connor thinks that Lucky Lou's and the Charles are under the cone of silence and they don't produce any noise. Even though they're on their patio at 11 o'clock, if we're considered the party place, what do they do at 11 o'clock? I mean, do you guys eat a filet at 11 o'clock, or are you going to have a drink out on the patio? Nobody really cares. I don't care what people do, to be honest with you. However, when my reputation is disparaged, I can access my cameras from anywhere in the world. There's internet. I am hands-on. A man who comes in and tries to tell you what I'm doing to comply has never been in my business, has never talked to my employees. Get my employees lined up if you want to know how thorough we are. And I will say one more thing, and this is not to disparage the Charles. However, the last time we had to call the police was because the Charles sold alcoholic beverages in cups like these, which is illegal. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, any COVID. They've advertised that. If you look in the Wethersfield News, advertised drinks to go. You can't do it. It's illegal. However, some people like to quote the law when it's being broken right in front of them. So this is not about Bryce. That's his problem. I'm not reporting it. I'm letting you guys know that is an issue. So if there's plastic cups on the sidewalk, they're not mine. I have security. People urinating, tell me when. Call the police. Number one, call the police. Number two, call me. I have cameras. The police have come to us, and Christine can verify, when the pole got knocked down, my cameras shoot across Main Street. They shoot south to the firehouse. My cameras catch everything. People have a tendency maybe not to tell the truth. The cameras don't lie, and I will stand on that, and I appreciate your time and effort.
All right, did anybody have any other questions for the applicant? Okay. I guess I have one quick question for Denise. You know, we talked about the COVID rules expiring on April 30th, but something else takes effect on May 1st unless the law changes, which is basically that outdoor dining becomes an accessory as of right use that we can't really regulate.
That's right.
Okay.
Does it define dining at all in terms of?
It uses the same terminology that the current COVID rules do and shift it from, basically permitted, as a carry forward under the existing laws to an accessory use permitted as of right. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Will a finalized plan for everything be presented to the Historical Society and to the town?
It has been presented and approved by the Historic District Commission.
Yeah, the Historical Society is a private organization.
Okay.
George?
Yeah, and along that same line, Denise, I'd like to see better drawings of what they want to do in some of these sketchy ones that come through, like this one. It's not very clear what they want. That's what I recall reading it. Okay, that's what it is. Fine.
I mean, the plan that was included is the plan that was approved and submitted with Luna.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's the same number of tables, same number of seats, same dimensions.
That's all they're asking for.
I mean, essentially, one of the conditions that I would apply is just that the occupant maintain 4 feet of space between the back of the chair and pavers for pedestrian traffic.
Where? I mean, I'm just trying to envision where those 4 feet would be. Inside the patio?
Outside the patio.
Okay, well, there's a fence, right?
Right.
Yeah.
From the fence back to the first seat, right?
So they maintain the 4 feet of pedestrian access on the sidewalk, outside of the patio.
And then every 200 feet, there has to be a 5x5 turning radius for ADA too, but that, they have no problem with that because
Because it's
their
not.
store is in 200 feet. And every door opening will have that 5 foot in front of it anyways.
So the four, I'm sorry to be dense, the 4 feet is outside the fence, and the fence is 4 feet away from the sidewalk, is that what? 'Cause I mean, all the seats are inside the fence.
Right. So from the fence to the curb?
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
Can I just edify a little bit? Yeah.
No, come on up, we're gonna have to
The 4
record it.
feet goes from the edge of the fence to the far side of the sidewalk. We're at 5 feet now because there was some question. One of the town guys came down and said, they couldn't get by in strollers. So we're at 5 feet now, straight across from the edge of our fence. Of the 4 feet we need, we're 5 feet.
So
Yes.
you're just going to leave physically as is right now with the 5 feet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
HDC, I was talking about possibly putting in some stone and wrought iron, but HDC likes it better with the rustic, the fence, wooden fence look, so I have no problem with that.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anything else from anybody before we close the hearing?
Do the employees park elsewhere? Where do your employees park?
In the back or at the Keeney Center, we try to keep them off of Main Street because of the limited parking. So I try to get them to park over at the Keeney Center and walk across.
The smoking is,
Some do park in front,
the smoking is pretty much in front and in back?
No. Smoking, we have, again, if
I'm sorry, could you come up to the
Yeah,
microphone,
absolutely, no
please?
problem. If you are a patron, as Christine said, if you're a patron and you go inside, you'll see signage all over the place. One of our favorites is all take your butts out back type thing, little play on word. And on the patio itself, there's a big sign, no vaping, no smoking out here. So they're all pushed to the back.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Just wanted to hear it from the record.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Someone want to make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Ryan, second by George. All in favor of closing the hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Someone want to make a motion to start discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve application 213823Z special permit with accordance to 5.2 for outdoor dining. In terms of regulations, can we just say that, like, you know, previous approvals carry forward, or, because I don't think we deviated from any of them, at least in our discussion. Unless it was, it was the part of the.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference from the 2020 permit would be the 10 o'clock, the 10 o'clock close.
So approval with the 10 o'clock close and the 31, what was it, 4 and 31 tables? 4 tables,
7
31?
and 31?
7 and 31.
7 tables and 31 seats.
Yeah, it's already in here.
Would also, would provision for approval also include the waiver on the parking? Sounds like that would be a requirement
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, what was the finding on
It
that?
would be 10 spaces.
I guess in theory, we'd already waived those 10 spaces when we approved the restaurant that is no longer there too, so that would be a waiver of 10 required site spaces.
Right from the 2015 application.
Okay.
So would we say that explicitly?
Yeah, with a waiver of 10
Yeah.
spaces.
All right, with a waiver of 10 spaces, all right.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, so that's the motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, second by George. Any, Joe?
I just have one comment or question, and I think I've said this on many, if not all, of the outdoor dining applications in the past, which is, do we want to consider some kind of, just like there was a term of 1 year on the original Luna approval, do we want to put a year or two on it just to maintain the ability to make sure that things are going smoothly going forward? And again, I know I've raised that on some of the other ones. Sometimes, I'm not sure if we've always done it or not.
Maybe
But
not, because have we done it on the other ones? That's,
I think we've done it certainly in the past at times. I don't know about the most recent ones.
I don't think we've been doing much of that.
We did it a lot in the past.
But Denise, what?
So every time, each property comes back, it's different. Right now, the Charles, their outdoor dining expires at the end of this season. And Lucky Lou's had gotten a series of renewals. The first time, I believe it was a year, maybe for a couple years. Then it was 3. Right now, they have a 5-year approval.
Didn't it expire, though?
It did. They never came back for the
Okay.
approval.
So
Yeah,
all the
but that was
dining-
the term.
All our dining areas down there then have limits on our approvals, time-wise.
Typically, there's something set, yeah. At least in the beginning.
I don't know, in the past, have we even said that we'll waive the reapplication fee? So, again, just as a general proposition, it just is a additional comfort level, I think, for me. I mean, I'm comfortable with this application and going forward, and not saying that we should preclude it, but just think
So I
about it.
was only questioning it, I like consistency. That closing hours and stuff bother me that they're different down there for the various businesses of the same type.
Yeah, although, well, I mean, he
And,
did,
Now we're trying to correct it, so that's one more.
right, I mean,
maybe.
to the credit of the applicant,
You're right.
he said 10 o'clock, but, I guess I would just point out, and Lucky Lou's has certainly had its own issues with noise and stuff like that, but one difference, I guess, in my mind, is that patio, as big as it is set back from the sidewalk into the property. It's not, I mean, it's fairly close, I guess, at its front, but a lot of it is back farther
So
in.
you see issues out closer to the sidewalk or in the
I don't know, I mean,
sidewalk
Village
there.
Pizza's on top of the sidewalk too, but
Therefore,
it's,
you wanna-
but it's only got
you wanna
4
give it a-
tables,
You
right?
want to give
So
it a year or 2 or something like that?
I'm just throwing it out there for, see how other people
Would you
feel.
think 2 years, George, is,
Yeah, that'd be fine.
waive any?
And waive the fee.
I'd rather have
fee.
2, I don't want just one, that doesn't, no. Couple be fine.
mean, and then he's a year beyond when the Charles is due to expire, right?
Yes.
I keep looking for consistency on all the food.
The difference with that application for the Charles, however, is they still have a temporary patio as opposed to their permanent installation.
Yeah, they had asked for a year.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they having to come back this spring?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern is that Ryan made the motion and he's not here to accept the amendment. So this, I guess, to move in his absence, does somebody want to second his original motion and then make an amendment to, or
Go
by the
ahead.
time I figure out how to do it, it'll probably be back.
I mean, do you want to just see how people feel about it?
Oh, here he comes. Tony, you don't have to make
I'm
it.
sorry, I'm late.
No,
We're trying to get a substitute.
they want to have a 2-year time limit. And,
Can we waive the fee?
yeah, that was the other part of it.
Outstanding, I'm in.
Okay, all right. So does somebody want to second the motion?
Second.
All right. Any additional comments, questions, stipulations?
Just for the record, just concerned again about the parking situation in Old Wethersfield. The Old Wethersfield parking study needs to be part of the record, just for future reference. Hopefully it continues a sense of urgency for any parking issues.
What are you getting at?
Let's not just put aside the issue of parking in Old Wethersfield. I'm just making a statement for the record, that's all. I'm not doing anything more than that.
No, I get it.
But you're
I mean,
volunteering to do a parking study personally, no?
You want to do
No.
another personal study?
no.
Why not? We have been doing a lot of them.
No, I think your point is well taken. I mean, you know, it's something that we should keep in mind every time we deal with something in Old Wethersfield, is both the, you know, the individual and the cumulative effects.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. All right, next, item 3.2, public hearing, 2139-23Z, BDC Holdings Inc., seeking a special permit in accordance with Section 512 of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for the construction of a 99,360 square foot self-storage facility with associated site improvements at 2176 and 2180 Berlin Turnpike. And if you could just, when you're settled, identify yourself by name and address for the record, please.
Thank you.
You take your time.
All right, good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Chris Pulowski. I'm a licensed civil engineer with Solely Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant. Office is located in Monroe, Connecticut, here to discuss 2176 and 2180 Berlin Turnpike. Just to provide a little recap of how we got here and what kind of path we took, we originally were planning to come forward with this application at the end of last year. We are proposing self-storage, as you know, and there is a requirement in your zoning regulations regarding mixed use when you propose self-storage. Unfortunately, the site doesn't really allow for that, so we came forth in January with a text amendment to allow the commission to modify the mixed-use requirements related to self-storage if the site met certain criteria. So that was approved by this commission back in January. Subsequently, in February, we filed an inland wetland application with the town of Wethersfield. We did receive approval at the last meeting for that application. We also filed a special exception permit or site plan application with the town of Newington, as the town is, or as the project is on the border, and we did receive approval from them as well. We have also submitted to the Connecticut DOT for an encroachment permit, and we are here to seek our final approval from you all for a special exception permit. It's now to orientate everyone. The site is located on the Newington-Wethersfield line. It's approximately 11.4 acres. It's 2176 and 2180 Berlin Turnpike. The front of the site, as you see here, is in Newington, with the majority, I'd say about 90% of the site, is located within Wethersfield. The building and most of its components, in terms of parking, stormwater basins, et cetera, will be located within the Wethersfield town lines. So we're proposing a 99,360 square foot self-storage facility. As part of that, there is an 861 square foot office, which is associated with the retail operations of the facility. We're proposing 23 parking spaces. There is a 24-foot drive aisle to access the facility, and then it widens to 30 feet in the rear of the facility. Can you all hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. There is a series of overhead storage doors that face the west and the south. The facility will only have access on 3 sides. The side that faces the wetland essentially just be a wall with an emergency egress. And again, we did receive wetlands approval, discussed the landscaping and the buffers that we put forth as part of our application, but the Wetlands Commission was very happy with all the screening and the care we took to protect the wetlands. So again, 23 parking spaces, 99,360 square foot building. There's 5,000 square feet of outdoor storage. When we originally had a preliminary discussion on this application a few months ago, we did have 10,000 square feet of outdoor storage. We wanted to take neighbors' concerns into mind, and we shrunk that outdoor storage by half and significantly increased the buffer in between us and the condominium or apartment complex located to the south. And again, when I get to the landscape plan, I'll discuss some of those items that we did to take care of those or cater or make sure we were screening the property from the neighbors. Our site is designed to accommodate not only a fire truck, but also a WB-50. The Connecticut DOT requires that on all new applications. Although we don't anticipate that large of a truck accessing a facility, it has been designed to accommodate that. As you pull down the drive, the site makes a turn, and then you're greeted by the entrance in the front office, if you will. There's also an access gate, so if you're a potential new customer, you would park in front of the facility, enter into the office, which is located outside of the gate. You would inquire about renting a storage unit, and then if you signed on to one, you'd be granted an access card to access through the gate and proceed to the rest of the facility. Other than that, the outdoor storage area is also completely fenced in and enclosed. This is just an extra layer of security in terms of people want to store boats or trailers or RVs or anything of that nature.
What is it going to be, 6, you said, now, or 4?
I'm
The
sorry?
outdoor storage area.
5,000 square feet.
How much?
5,000 square feet.
No, height of the fencing.
6 feet, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Good question, thank you. So yes, again, 24 feet wide or foot wide drive aisle, 99,360 square feet of self-storage with 861 square feet of office and 23 parking spaces.
How many trees you taking down for the application? You had some very good documents. I think I counted 50.
Yeah, there's definitely a few trees we're taking down. We're also,
Documents?
Worth of trees.
Oh.
I apologize for all the plans. Yeah, so we are, we're proposing the facility, it's upside down. There you go. So if you've ever been in the area, the bedding barn is to our west. There's also a Salvation Army facility that is in between us and the road. The road is 30 to 40 feet above the existing grade in the area. So we're kind of sunken down in a hole. And that leads back to, again, I do want to state on the record that we are asking this commission to modify the mixed use requirement of the zoning regulations for self-storage. It's section 5.12. There's 4 conditions that we previously brought forth regarding the text amendment that allows this commission the purview to modify those regulations if the commission finds that the 4 items are met. And we believe that this site meets or exceeds all 4 of those requirements. So I didn't want to put that on the record. Because again, we don't have the minimum required mixed-use component in this development. So the site is very high from the front, so we're going to come down on a long drive, slowly grade down, and then access the facility from the front. So the self-storage facility is tiered, if you will. So this level on these 3 sides, the south, the west, and the north, are accessed at grade. That is your first floor. There is no basement in this facility, so the back side facing the wetlands will just be like a concrete foundation wall going down to grade. So you're at 223 approximate elevation along the edge of the wetlands. Our first floor elevation is at 238. So we are 15 feet above the wetlands, and again, that's just designed to keep people away from the wetlands. There's no reason to be wandering back there or doing anything. So the ground level, the first floor is at 238. There is no basement. The only access out the back is for emergency egress. And then above the main level, we have 2 more stories for a total of 3 stories. And we are in compliance with the height requirements. We did go before the design review board or committee as well, and I believe seek favorable action there. All of the HVAC units, if there are to be any on the roof, will be screened so they won't be visible from the road. And all of the outdoor storage doors, or overhead doors, if you will, on the building are not visible from the road either. You really can't see the site from the road. It's a very interesting site, being sunken down in a bowl, how much it is. So again, as you come down the site, there's that 30 to 40 foot grade change. We flatten out in here, and the drive kind of ebbs and flows to provide pitch for stormwater drainage. And then we have a retaining wall located here and here, one on each side of the building, and then 2 stormwater basins to treat and provide water quality treatment. All the stormwater on site has been designed in accordance with the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Manual. We're reducing peak flows. We also did receive comments from the engineering department. There is a large portion of the bedding barn property that drains onto our site currently. It was built back in the 60s, and there wasn't too much consideration for stormwater at the time. So we have designed a infiltration trench all along the property here, which is designed with a pipe in it to hold and infiltrate the stormwater, and then it flows out into a level spreader and then into the wetlands. So we're even capturing water that our site is not producing, if you will. And again, we are reducing the peak flows and providing numerous levels of water quality treatment throughout our application.
What's the slope of the driveway coming in, percent-wise?
Yeah. So when you enter, we always
Yeah,
try
the
to
entrance
do
road.
approximately 5% or less for the
5%,
first
oh,
40 or 50 feet. And then we actually start to go down, and then we shallow out. There is potential in the future. It would be in Newington to add a retail pad out in the front. So if you imagine we come in at a slight grade and then we kind of shallow out at a lower elevation, that would provide an access point in the future as part of a separate application, not as part of this application, to provide some type of retail pad in the front there. So that's shown right in here where you have a spot elevation and it kind of again flattens out, and then we continue down at 8%, and then there's 2 to 3% in the parking lot just to provide positive pitch to direct the stormwater to the structures. Thank you for the question.
Excuse me, the driveway to the office around back, so the office would be on the top floor, right?
The office is on the first floor.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So the office is on the bottom right corner.
It's right here in the northernmost corner.
I think, okay, I'm looking at this, is just what you filter out. Okay, I'm good then, I'm good.
No worries.
Can you tell us a little bit about the retention? Is that a retention basin, I see?
Yeah, so we have two stormwater quality basins, both have sediment forebays in them. So I like to talk about what's called in engineers world the treatment train. So we have first off, all of our catch basins have been designed with 2-foot sumps So those provide an additional level of water quality treatment right from the start. And then all of the water that enters the pavement area or the impervious surfaces is collected and then routed to a hydrodynamic separator. We have 2 hydrodynamic separators on site. Those provide 80% of solid removal. They capture oil, grit, grease, anything that may come off the cars or anything, trash, receptacles. There's a strict maintenance plan for these units in place and documented in our engineering report. So that's another step on our stormwater treatment, and that's even before it gets to the basins. And then when it lands in the basins, the outlet is right here for the stormwater for this one, and then right here, there's sediment forebays. So those provide opportunity for the sediment to kind of settle out in the basin before flowing over into the other side of the basin. So for example, the water would come down here, go through the catch basins with 2-foot sumps and the hydrodynamic separator, then it would outlet to this sediment forebay. It would slowly fill up there, and there's a berm that kind of splits the basin, if you will. And the clean water travels over, and then there's additional time for things to settle out, sediment, and then it'll slowly rise up, and there's an outlet control structure here. And then we additionally have a level spreader at the end of both basins to provide even an additional layer of water quality treatment, something we really strive for when we design our applications. So thank you for the question. So this is our soil erosion sediment control plan. Everything's been designed in accordance with the 2002 Connecticut Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Guidelines. So pretty much everything you see here, we have a anti-tracking pad in accordance with Connecticut DOT's requirements. We are on a state road. There's silt sacks that will be placed in all the catch basins. The property is very blighted, if you will. There's like a rundown house, there's foundation remnants, just some things that need to be cleaned up, quite frankly. So we have a pile here where they demolish the house, they'll put it there and load it into dumpsters and haul it off to the appropriate facility. The foundation remnants are going to have to be removed as well, same type of thing. So we have a couple of piles there for that. There's also a topsoil pile. We're going to strip the topsoil off the site. We're going to construct the building, the parking lots, etc. And then when everything is ready for the finished landscaping, we'll take that topsoil and spread it back around the site. At the bottom of the site, because all the water flows from west to east downhill, we have a series of mulch berms and silt fence. So we like to use mulch berms. There's a lot of trees in the property. So we will, if the trees are cut down, they'll be wood chipped and used as kind of reused on site. We find it works really well, provides a good way to slow down the water, any runoff, control erosion, and it's a great way to reuse the trees that are already there. So those are on the lowest portions of the site. There's a series of, there's 2 diversion swales here because we have sediment traps located on the northern and southern ends of the building. Those again provide sediment and stormwater runoff capabilities to ensure that there's not any sediment entering into the wetlands.
How high is the mulch berm?
The mulch berm is about 2 to 3 feet.
Okay.
And again, and then behind it you have the silt fence. So there's essentially double layer protection to protect the wetlands. So again,
So you do that instead of like hay bales and stuff?
exactly, yeah. We find it works better in long term because when you got to go out there and stake a hay bale, it's much easier for a guy in a payloader to scoop up wood chips, place them. We find that our construction site crews do a better job maintaining the mulch from a long-term perspective.
Oh, excuse me, does this take, drawings are great.
Thank you.
The question I have is, did this take into account your businesses in front, bedding barn, so forth and so on? Has it taken into account anything that exists there and the lack maybe of what should be there? I mean, I'm worried about, you get done perfectly and then there's a corruption here and it hasn't been accounted for.
Yeah, so it's a good question. The town engineer, I believe, had a similar question, if I understand. They wanted us to look at sites to the west, so specifically the bedding barn, that's a small strip plaza, and then Salvation Army, basically these 3 properties, if you will, to see what was coming off of their site. So we were able to obtain, those are located in Newington. We were able to obtain site plan records from each of those sites. So we are able to essentially break it down. The southernmost property has a newer-ish, if you will, installed storm drainage system that outlets water to the south past our site, so it doesn't impact us the bedding barn comes onto our site, as I previously mentioned. We designed an infiltration trench to collect and accommodate that water and treat it before routing it to its natural path, which currently goes down to the wetlands. And then this facility, I believe is a small strip center, if you will. They have an existing stormwater detention basin located on their property that we are mindful of. We are not impacting. In fact, we have placed a double catch basin located right at the outlet of that, just in case there is any overflow from that basin that's getting routed around into the wetlands, again, following its natural drainage pattern. So, thank you.
Do you know anything about the drainage in the property just to the north of there? I think there are a couple large buildings there. Do they have any potential impact on yours?
These right here?
Yeah, it's like the church and the computer
Yeah,
place.
those drain, so this wetland is large and kind of extends, if you will. They just drain to the back.
Okay.
So in our
It's not like
analysis.
they poured down.
Correct, yeah.
south. Okay.
In our analysis, we determined that basically the bedding barn is really the one property that they have I don't know if you've ever been there, but in the back, they have a large paved area, and there's no curb, it just kind of pitches right towards us. So we definitely wanted to make sure we accounted for that in our site design. So, thank you for the question.
So the only access for the drainage is through the 3 level spreaders? Everything else is just bermed along that east side of the building?
You mean the outlets?
Yeah, any runoff is gonna
Correct.
go through either of those 2 treatment areas
That's
and
correct.
through the level spreaders and not over. Okay.
That's correct. So this is our utility plan. Fortunately, we have great access to all the necessary utilities for the project. So located within Berlin Turnpike is your electric, what's overhead, excuse me, your electric, your water, and your gas. So we'll be tying into the electric. There's currently a pole on our property. It used to previously have a line that ran across the highway, so we'll need to engage the appropriate utility companies to reattach that wire, and then we will grab the power off the pole and bring it into the front of our facility. We have one transformer proposed, located in an island right kind of off the front of the office there. Water and gas, again, those mains currently exist on our side of the road, which is fantastic. We don't have to trench across Berlin Turnpike, so we can pick those up right at the site entrance, bring those down into our site and connect right into our building in front here. There is a sanitary sewer main that runs through our site, which adds another complicated layer to development. Thankfully, we have engaged MDC, who owns the rights and the easement to that sewer easement, and we are in discussions on how they want us to proceed to tie into that. But our project currently is proposing to run to a sewer manhole, and then the line bisects north-south, so there's a series of sewer manholes located on our property, which we're proposing to tie into one of them on this side, I believe. So again, we're access to sewer, water, gas, and electric and telecom right easily available for our site from a utility standpoint. So this is our landscape plan. This is compliant with both Town of Wethersfield and the Town of Newington regulations. So we have a series of trees and shrubs proposed as you come down into the main site drive here. We have 10 different types of deciduous tree species native along the wetlands buffer plantings, which Wetlands was very pleased about.
You're planting along that backside,
That is correct.
trees, what size?
I believe most of the trees that we're planting are 6 to 8 feet when they get installed, but they grow much taller, if you will.
The
So-
reason I asked that is, I was gonna get to you before, but I'm glad you brought this up. We had a couple of people concerned with the visibility behind their homes on Orchard Brook, and that they look out, and what are you gonna be taking down? Both the building and you're gonna be replanting trees along the back side of the building, right? And 6 to 8 feet?
Correct. So I
Good
believe the
size.
Orchard Brook is located to the south here.
No, I think the people complaining
No, it's to the south.
Are they south?
Yeah,
Oh, I
because
thought
their
they're back.
lot goes
Okay.
like 1,000 feet to the east
okay.
before you get to the
Thank you for
Briarwood
correcting me.
condominium or whatever it
That's
is under the swamp on the other side.
Yeah.
That's correct. So we're mindful of their concerns, and again, we did cut our outdoor storage area in half. And what that enabled us to do is, we have an average of 40 feet of existing natural buffer that's going to remain. That's this dashed line here. So there's 40 feet in between our property line and the existing tree line. The woods also extends onto their property line. So they have, I don't know, 5 to 10 additional feet of natural woods that's going to remain. Now, on the backside of this, we've planted, or we're going to be planting, these large circles you see here are holly trees. They're very dense. They're going to be 6 to 8 feet high. When they're planted, they grow to 20, 30 feet high, even 40 feet sometimes in full growth. They're very dense. They provide a great screening mechanism. So then those are planted on the berm of our stormwater basin. Then we have another 20 to 30 feet for the stormwater basin. And then we have a 6-foot high fence. And then we have an additional, I would say, 80 feet or so to our building. So from building to the property line, you're talking about 200 plus feet, which is almost 2 basketball court lengths. It's more than 2 basketball court lengths, just to provide a frame of reference. So I understand their concerns, and we try to be accommodating to that. We're here to be good neighbors. Our applicant is here to be good neighbors. You know, we hear them, and we're trying the best we can. You know, we still have to treat and maintain our stormwater. The site is very compact, so unfortunately, we can't really move the building any which way to the north due to the grade change and again, the stormwater factors, but we did want to make sure that we were maintaining as much as we could and supplement with additional screenings. So that's what I have to say on that matter. And again, we have 10 different types of deciduous trees being planted on the back side of the building towards the wetlands. I think there's 17 total trees that are being planted, and then a multitude of shrubs and understory growth plants, if you will. These slopes on the sides here are going to be seeded with a New England conservation mix. It's like a no-mow. It's almost like a wildflower type mix. It's just easy to maintain, something that grows in green and nice. Because again, those slopes to get down as you come into the site are more difficult to plant on, if you will. And then throughout the islands, we have some shrubs scattered throughout, some small trees and whatnot, just to provide some decorative feel to the whole project.
Chris, on that landscape print, can you tell us about the lighting for the 21 spaces, potential spaces?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to next. Thank
Ah,
you. No, I'm good.
a moment of brilliance.
Don't spoil it.
Jesus, man.
No worries. So this is our proposed lighting plan. So we're proposing 5 light poles throughout the site. There's 1 on the drive here, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. These are 17-foot dark sky compliant fixtures. The LEDs are recessed, so you won't see the bulbs. They're designed to just illuminate the area directly below them. So these aren't bright spotlights that are out there. They're not obtrusive. Again, they are dark sky compliant. I mean, every town that we work with now requires dark sky compliant fixtures. It's becoming the new norm. And then there's another potential concern from the neighbors regarding light from the building. So we only have 1 wall pack on this side of the building. It's mounted at a 10-foot height. It is also recessed, dark sky compliant, and it's really only designed to illuminate the area right below it at a 10-foot height. So a combination of the 40-foot wide natural buffer of the trees that are going to remain, the 6 to 8 foot high hollies that we're planting, the trees, the stormwater basin, the fence. I mean, and I can't speak, I mean, in the winter, you know, when the leaves are down, maybe you will be able to see, but the light definitely will not be shining to the south towards the residents that reside there. You can see all the foot candles here from our light levels. We have 2 other wall pack, or 1 other wall pack outside of the overhang, and then there's an overhang on our building underneath that. There's like 3 or 4 lights that again illuminate straight down. So there's no like bright spotlights that you see on some buildings that are on our building. We only have the ones that you see here. And then our facility is operational from 9 to 5 or 5:30. People are allowed to enter a couple of hours before and after, but we also have like a lights out period, or the applicant has a lights out period. So from, let's say, 9 to 6 a.m., all the lights will be turned off in the facility. It's not beneficial for our client to have people accessing the facility at midnight, at 1 in the morning. That nothing good happens after midnight is the saying I like to say. Yes, the lights will be turned off from 9 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And again, the lights are only designed to illuminate the area directly below them. So,
Well, just to be clear, the lights are off and the place is closed and you can't access it after 9 PM?
that is correct. So if you want to come and lease a unit, you have to come between, let's say, 9 and 5 or 5:30. And then there's extended hours if you already own a unit. Those are like 2 hours in the beginning of the day and 2 hours at the end where, hey, maybe you're running late, you got to get there at 7:30. The lights will be on for that, but again, it won't be like open for business, if you will. It's just for people who already have units, and then lights out at 9 p.m. until 6 a.m.
No, thank you. That's what I thought, but I wanted to confirm.
Yep, no worries. And with that, I believe it concludes my presentation. Again, we have received Newington's approval. We have received the wetlands approval from the town of Wethersfield. We've submitted to the Connecticut DOT for our encroachment permit. Now we are before all of you seeking our special exception permit approval. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Snow shelf? Where's the snow going?
So the snow will be directed, I'd imagine, when they come down, it'll probably be cast off to the sides as they plow down the driveway. There is an area on this side, there's a like 6 to 8 foot space in between the wall and the back of the curb where they can pile snow. There's also a nice island in here, because this is, again, you come down kind of steep, so the snow will be shed for the plow off to the sides. But then when you come down here, it has to flatten out because we provide ADA access. You can't have more than 2% slope, so it is generally flat in front of the building, and there's a nice area in here that can put snow. And then as you come through the back here, same thing in the back here, there's a place to put snow. You can park it on the island right here. So there's areas that the operator will be able to place the snow throughout the facility. Thank you.
Joe?
In terms of people who already have units there, what would prevent somebody from driving in at 10 o'clock at night? Is there a gate, or would?
That's correct. So you could theoretically come down the drive, but you'd have to turn around because there's an access gate that only a keypad or key card. It's right across the facility, right here, if you where my finger is, if you will. So you can't access any of these storage units or the facility without a key card. And again, it's shut off.
So even if you have a key card, it's not
You're
going
not
to
gonna
open
get
it?
it.
Okay, thank you.
You have to turn around, unfortunately. But that's laid out in the lease, very clear, so.
All right. Anything from either of the Daves? Okay. Anybody over to the right here? Tom?
Yeah, I was impressed by the thoroughness of the materials that you presented. There's one area that's not addressed at all. It's not so much a land use planning issue, but it has to do with the relationship with the tenants of the storage facilities. And that is, what policies or procedures will there be in place to guard against the storage of hazardous materials, all the way from gasoline to gunpowder or whatever, materials that could constitute a danger or hazard to the community to be stored within such a facility.
Thank you for the comment regarding the materials. To answer your question, I'd actually like to bring up the applicant. They operate the facilities themselves. Shane Reynolds, if you don't mind, talking a little bit about the policies they have in place to prevent those kinds of things from happening. Just state your name.
Hi, my name is Shane Reynolds. I'm a development associate with BDC Holdings and BDC Capital. Our primary office is in White Plains, New York, 222 Bloomingdale Road. So we have pretty strict screening guidelines when it comes to enforcing illegal, storage of materials. There is an initial screening process in the lease where we have the ability to, in like during business hours, assist with the actual move-in process. I'm not 100% sure because it's never really come up since we've started doing this. But there are sensors, there are, electrical components, things that are built into the systems that can monitor for gases and other emissions, temperature changes. There's no electrical outlets or anything like that in the units, but we do have the ability to at least scan units. We have so overhead monitoring systems and things of that nature. We also have 24-hour hallway and I guess like intra-unit access. So we don't have cameras that go directly in and cover every square inch of the site, but whenever somebody comes into the building, from the point that they enter the driveway, they're being monitored 24/7. We're not open 24/7, so it would be during business hours or those off-hour areas. So there could be something in a box that we don't catch. Unfortunately, that's always sort of a risk that, it's part of doing business. But it's pretty rare when we actually go through and, just like going to the post office, if you are sending a package and it's already sort of wrapped up, you are testing when you, pay for the parcel that none of these items in the, pictures are going to be stored in the box or shipped. We kind of have a similar process where we go through and we explain things that we can and cannot store. It's all outlined in basically like a wording and also visible print materials that are available when you actually do sign the lease. And it's written into the lease itself. We do have the ability to cut locks at any time if we suspect that there's illegal activity or anything being stored that is illegal. And of course, our management company always reserves the right, and it's built into the lease as well, to contact any outside authorities if we need to as well. In general, statistically, this is a pretty rare occurrence. It does happen. I would not say it's not going to happen, and I would say if it does, it's usually sort of a mistake, rather than somebody intentionally trying to store something that would be technically illegal. I would say that would probably be the most rare. But we do our best to at least screen up front by giving everyone the information that they need and then knowing what their rights are and what our rights are up front in the lease. And that's probably the biggest deterrent, other than the fact that we have the ability to monitor the entry in and out of tenant units when they're actually utilizing the space.
Thank you, Shane. Hope that answers your question. Thank you
Yeah,
for the question.
appreciate it.
Joe?
I know you had design review previously. I was just curious if you happen to have a copy of what the building looks like with you?
Yes.
While you're looking for that, Shane, do you ever have those auctions that they have on TV? What do you do with somebody that's a hoarder and they fill it up?
Yeah, so if they fill it up and they technically can shut their door, God bless them. There is a, the units are corrugated steel, and then above them there is a space. They can't utilize it, but there's airway access. So there's HVACing and there's movement. So even if they do pack it tightly and they could barely move, or they'd have to take something out to even get in, there's still, from a development standpoint, enough airflow to keep the humidity and the temperature, internally where it needs to be, so that there's no real trouble. But unfortunately, yes, it's a month-to-month arrangement, and it's pretty legal, administrative. There's very little that goes into it beyond like a couple of warning letters. They're not as fun. I think that show maybe sensationalized something that is actually really unfortunate from an economic standpoint, and I wouldn't wish that happens to anyone. But if it does occur, it's pretty administrative. We send some warning letters, we try to contact them, and it's kind of like collections, but there's a summary judgment at the end, and then we do auction off the the site. It's usually a public notice. It's less pleasant than it may appear on a television show. But it unfortunately does happen from time to time.
Do you have any, I mean, and it's, may sound like an odd question, but there have been unconfirmed sightings of people appearing to dwell, at least temporarily, in these units elsewhere in town. Do you have any mechanism for preventing that?
Yeah, so, and I can't speak to the macro situation that would lead to something like that. And again, I think it's a horrible circumstance. But we monitor our facilities through, and manage our facilities through a nationally recognized self-storage management firm, Storage Asset Management. They're one of the largest private asset managers in the United States. I think they are right around 600 facilities all throughout the United States. They've been doing this for quite a while. So a couple of deterrents. One is updated electronic systems. So we monitor 24 hours a day, even if we're not in business and there's no access. Even though we do shut the lights off, they're still motion censored, and we have the ability to see whether it's a deer or if it's a human being. So we monitor the site at all times. There are no electrical components that would allow for someone to sort of safely reside in their unit, and there would be no mechanism that would allow them to lock it from the inside. So if they were to attempt to sort of stay in their unit, we would easily be able to identify whether or not their unit was locked or if there was some light being emitted from the unit off hours. So even though we're not physically present there, we do have sort of eyes inside the halls, so to speak. Again, that's an unfortunate situation. I hope it doesn't happen. I would say it would be very likely for someone to be able to do that habitually, if they were able to do it, even for a short period.
Okay, thanks.
Mind, just,
All set?
sorry, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. So this is our proposed building. This is the side of the building faces the north, the entrance, if you will, when you come down the drive. This is another rendering of it right here. This is the rear side, so this is the side that would face to the south. So again, there would be no light coming out of the building from that side. It's just the overhead doors and then the facade above and 2 stories. This is the back side of the building that faces the wetlands to the east. So all you have there is a couple of windows and then the emergency egress, the concrete pad down in case of emergency. And then this is the side that faces the west. You have windows, the overhead doors, or the roll-up doors, and a series of entry points, if you will. We believe there's sometimes a negative connotation about self-storage and how they look. We believe our client puts forth a quality product. It's very modern, contemporary design, and really different than some of the other storage facilities that you see out there.
How tall is the building?
39.5 feet at its highest.
And are there multiple elevators inside?
That is correct. There are 2 elevators, I believe. 2 elevators inside the facility.
Thank you.
Does it have sprinklers inside?
That is correct, yes. Fully sprinkled.
And I assume the fire marshal had no issue with access only on 3 sides?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Again, our site has been designed to accommodate the largest pumper that the town of Wethersfield has. So.
He did receive a copy of the application and provided no comment.
Okay. Somewhere in the materials, I thought you were talking about the turning radius and so forth. I thought I saw somewhere that the largest vehicle going down here would be a bus.
That's correct. So.
Is this like, not a school bus?
No. It would be an SU-30. I mean, so let me back that up. So the DOT requires on all roads now, if you want a new curb cut onto a state road, you have to show that your site can accommodate a WB50, which is a small tractor trailer. These units aren't large enough you're not going to move an entire household, and these units just aren't large enough. So we never anticipate or see WB50s that enter the site, but our site is designed to accommodate them. The largest vehicle that we see is usually SU-30, which is a small box truck. You're moving, a few items, a couch, things of that nature. A U-Haul, that's very common, right? But we'd never ever see, but I don't want to say never, but that it's very uncommon to see a WB-50. But again, we were forced to accommodate that from Connecticut DOT standpoint. So,
Okay.
thank you.
You've talked about the shrubbery buffering and so forth to the property to the south. What's the topography between the two? I think it's pretty level in that area?
That's correct. So I don't have it up, but hang on one sec.
So it's not like they're, going to be looking over the top of your new trees or anything like that? I mean, my impression is that it's pretty flat generally.
No, that's correct. So the site slopes down from the west to the east. So like if you took 2 points, one at the property line and one, at where our building is, they're currently like on the same grade plane. Just because again, it slopes down. So no, where our site, they wouldn't be seeing over the tops of our trees.
Yeah, I mean, and that same kind of general sloping continues all the way down to.
Correct. And
Prospect
if
Street.
anything, our stuff is going to be up higher, so you won't be able to see it because we have to pitch the water to the basin. So we have to have a berm that is higher than our basin essentially to prevent the water from spilling over. So we're going to be filling where the trees are being planted, if you will, or the holly trees, excuse me. So
What are the limitations that are going to be put on the outdoor storage? Or is that in our regulations? I can't remember.
I'm not sure, but I apologize if it's in the town of Wethersfield regulations, but there's very strict requirements that our client puts forth. It's really intended for boats, RVs, trailers, but you're not allowed to work on your cars. You can't change your oil. There's no hazardous materials. There's no chemicals. There's a very strict list that we could provide as a condition of approval if this commission is so inclined to see that. And we'd be happy to provide something like that as a standard list of excluded, prohibited items.
Yeah, I think that would be good, because I know that on one of the other ones, there were concerns about people working on cars, but also that the outdoor storage had been used as like kind of an overflow wrecking tow yard by one of the nearby companies. They were using the outdoor storage area at one of the self-storages for all the, the totaled vehicles and so forth, and they were just dripping their stuff all over.
Geez, I'm sorry to hear that. We've done a few other sites for this client, and that's actually very common. Towns ask the same exact thing, and we have the list, and we'd be happy to provide that of the prohibited items that are not allowed to be stored. And again, you're absolutely right. You can't work on your cars, you can't change oil, you can't bring chemicals. I'm just listing a few of the things, but the list is much more extensive. So.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I would add my voice to that. I think if you could provide for our records a comprehensive list of prohibited or guarded materials so that we have it on file, I think would be helpful for our town staff to have just in the event of some untoward event in the future.
Totally understand. If this commission is to look favorably upon this application, we'd be happy to provide that as a condition of approval.
And I think other times we've asked for like a sample of the form unit lease too, assuming it's not entirely proprietary.
Yeah, we'd be happy to provide that. Obviously redact anything that is proprietary to our client, but that's something we could accommodate too. Most towns, as I mentioned, are looking for the outdoor storage excluded items list because they have the same concerns that you've mentioned.
Yeah,
So.
I'm talking about the inside ones also.
Understood.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, let me ask you, the outdoor storage, is that a showstopper for you guys financially? If you didn't have, last time you came here, we kind of like said, geez, we'd like to get rid of the outdoor storage. I know you cut it way in half, but.
Yeah, all of our other facilities have it.
I'm with you.
We've tried to be accommodating and cut it in half, which our client didn't really want to do. But again, trying to find that balance between cutting our client off financially and being accommodating to the neighbors and the towns. We try to strike it right in the middle, if you will. So I'm not sure if it's a stopper, but it is something that our clients' other facilities have, and they would like to see it, this operation as well. So,
What kind of fence is going to be around that?
6-foot high chain link.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Does anybody in the audience have any comments on this application? Anybody in the public? You can turn that around to face you again.
My name is Linda Polterak. I live at 26 Orchard Brook Drive in Wethersfield, and I had provided the chairperson, Roberts, with some of my comments. I just want to say I thought your presentation was wonderful. It answered a lot of my questions and my concerns favorably, but the one concern was the outside storage, because that is south and west, and that's like my backyard. So I just wanted to note that on the record, that that's my concern as well, and that's it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Come on up, please.
Again, as Linda stated, Darcy Leighton from 32 Orchard Brook. Linda's building actually blocks where they're going to be constructing this. And I have two concerns. One is the outdoor storage, and would question as to if it could be on the other side of the building, the north-facing side. And my other question would be that on that south-facing side of the building, what would the residents of Orchard Brook be looking at? Because during the winter, or even now, we can see where you're going to be putting the building. Even if you put it in 6-foot trees, the buildings are 2 stories, and in that area, that particular building is 3 stories. So they would be looking almost down on your building, because there's been a variety of other purchasers or possible purchasers. So we would be interested in also what they would be seeing besides the outdoor storage. Are those going to be overhead doors on the outside of that south-facing building? That way, would they be coming in and out of there with their goods Saturdays, Sundays, etc.? And that would be, I think, other than that, your presentation was wonderful, but it didn't really fulfill how the aesthetics of the building are going to look. So no, we'd be interested in that also. But other than that, I think that you've answered all of the questions that came up, and we received the plans from the town, and we appreciated that. But we would have liked to have been involved a little bit earlier. We really had very little time to prepare any questions or letters or understanding of it. So that was kind of shocking that it was so far through the process before the residents were informed. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this application? The comments that Linda provided were hoping, first with respect to the lighting, hoping that any proposed lighting, flood, or other types would face north away from the residential area known as Orchard Brook condominiums. 2, fencing, and would appreciate that any fencing on the south side be something other than just a chain link style. Additional wood or other type of presentable fencing would be nice. Talking about the outdoor storage, requesting that it be on the northern side away from residential areas. Dumpsters, requesting that they be located away from residential dwellings. Hopefully that it would not be a 24/7 facility, taking into consideration the location of the residential properties. Okay. And I think there were a couple other letter, email kind of things that we got here. got the wetlands approval, the letter from Newington. Sherry Osterling, 27 Orchard Brook, had the question about the 10,000 feet of outdoor storage, aesthetics and deck area. There's some other comments about the tree environment and animal habitats that back up to that property. Denise Pratson at 29 Orchard Brook, the same question about, or similar question about fence so that they don't have to look at parked vehicles or garage doors to storage units, and hoping that any lighting at night would be minimal. I think that was it. Are there any outstanding comments from the engineering department?
No, they're not.
Okay, that's good, thank you. I think that was everything.
Again, Chris Pulowski for the record, licensed civil engineer, Solely Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Thank you for providing the comments, and thank you for the comments regarding our proposal. Regarding the outdoor storage, there was one question that was asked about moving it to the north. Unfortunately, we looked at that, but that it's not conducive to the operation, so the outdoor storage has to be beyond the entrance gate, which is located when you first pull into the site, for security purposes and everything else. Not so there, we couldn't move it beyond that. We did look at that. Again, we tried to be as accommodating as possible and cut it in half. We are willing to add privacy slats, the chain link fence, to add another layer of screening if desired. We're here to work with you guys. Our applicant wants to be good neighbors. We've tried to, I understand the holly trees are 6 to 8 feet at first growth or at first installation, but they will grow to 20 to 30 feet in height. Hollies we have a licensed landscape architect. Her name is Mary Blackburn. She's very good at this kind of work and screening stuff because we run across it quite often. And hollies are very dense and compact, so at least in the winter, I believe they stay true to their color and their dense and compactness, if you will. Like they're kind of like an evergreen where they don't lose their leaves, and then you just see bark. They're there and providing that screening year round. And again, our building is over 2 basketball courts away. In terms of what it would look like, because I believe that was another question. I don't know if you can see this, but this side is what would face the south. So there's no windows or anything. You're looking inside the building, if you will. There are overhead doors that are there, but again, they're only 8 feet in height. And between the hollies and the fence, again, we're open to providing privacy slats as a condition of approval on the fence. They're providing additional screening mechanism. You really wouldn't be able to see this, I believe.
Just a quick question about 6-foot fence.
Yeah.
I'm 6'2". So,
Right.
I was wondering if we could go to 10 feet.
I have to check the regulations and kind of Wethersfield. I don't believe we want to put a 10-foot high fence in, perhaps 8. But I'd have to, again, look at the regulations in the town and see if that's allowed.
Maybe just on the south side.
Correct. If it's allowed, I believe we'd be happy to put 8 feet on that side. 10 is getting up there in terms of height, if you will. But I'm happy to provide 8. If it's allowed within the regulation, but I have to double check on that.
I think it is in the commercial zones.
Yeah.
You just can't put barbed wire on top of it.
Sorry.
Tom?
One thing, kind of on the lines of what some of the neighbors have been indicating, you've got a flat roof on this facility, correct?
It's actually pitched from west to east.
It is pitched?
Correct, to provide positive drainage across.
Okay. So I was wondering if you had explored the idea or possibility of essentially a roof and turf garden, a roof garden and turf type covering onto the roof. I know that there have been a number of entities, municipalities, cities, really around the world that have explored that for purposes of both aesthetics and also energy conservation. That tends to work as well as, since you've got a roof that occupies roughly 34,000 square feet of space, that is just going to have runoff from that, and you could utilize that runoff to reduce the amount of runoff from the building itself by basically going green on the roof system.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I believe those are becoming more and more common. I don't believe we've looked into it at this time, but it's something we could look into. Another thing that I know we've explored on other facilities is potentially solar panels, but that's not being proposed at this time. But again, we could look into potentially adding a green roof, but I have to defer to our architect because it does add an additional structural load component, and there are some other requirements there. But we appreciate the recommendation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess just one last thing to confirm that the outdoor storage is going to be governed by the same hours of access as the rest of the property?
That is correct.
Okay.
And again, the outdoor storage, what they mostly find is say you have a boat, you need to store it somewhere in the off-season, so you come and you drop the boat off, and then you pick it in the fall, and you pick it back up in the spring. That's really what it's intended
Yeah, you can go
for.
visit your boat.
Correct. Thank you. And thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it. So.
Right. Anybody else in the public have any comments or questions before we close the hearing? Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Any thoughts on conditions that you want to run by them while we're still in public hearing mode?
I think we just have the mixed-use requirement waiver and then list of outside items that he has available for us. A taller fence up to the regulations with privacy slats. I think those are the 4 items that I'm aware of. Is there anything else, Denise, that we need to?
In my memo, at the end of page 2 and beginning of page 3, the recommendations starting at number 8 going to number 13 mirror our requirements in the self-storage regulations, so I would attach those.
Also, the list of, prohibited and projected hazardous materials and substances that would, that the owner does not permit, if that would be provided to the town, also make that a condition.
Oh, one quick question that I think I know the answer to. I was reminded looking at this stuff. There are obviously no sightline issues to the south. Can you, just sort of refresh us as to where the cut down on the access lane, the exit-only lane on the Berlin Turnpike is relative to this property?
Correct. That's much farther to the north. So in front of our site, there's two-way, one-way traffic moving north, and then there's a barrier, and then you have two-way traffic moving south. There's adequate sight line. Our traffic team has been out there multiple times, and we believe, and we submitted to the Connecticut DOT that we have adequate sight line. It's very clear in front. There's not a lot of obstacles, if you will, that block the sightline views on our site.
And you're still at the place where it's 3 lanes wide and it doesn't cut down to the other one until it gets past the property to the north that has the computer and the church in it?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right. Someone want to make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Someone want to make a motion to start discussion?
Sure. I will move to approve the application and to include as conditions of approval items 8 through 13 from Denise's memo dated March 31st, 2023. In addition, the fence on the south?
Yep.
Fence on the south side of the property shall be 8 feet in height, and it shall include privacy slats. Is there anything else that I didn't include that we talked about?
They are seeking a waiver for section 512D for the mixed use.
Okay, I would include that in the motion as well.
And also a list of outside items available to use.
Yes, to be submitted, the prohibited items list to be submitted to,
And a concern that Tom had was the hazardous materials or issues.
In a form of the unit lease.
okay.
And the only other thing that I would add, in the regulations, you are allowed to grant approval for outdoor storage not to exceed 10% of the gross site area. So, just
Could we say not to exceed 5,000 square feet? That should satisfy it. It's a large piece of land.
Yeah.
Right, and that's,
I'll second that motion if you got all the detail.
Right. Does anybody have anything that you want to tack on to this while we're in discussion?
The other observation I have, Mr. Chairman, is that we're looking at 627 units. We have 2 of these in town already up and running, and 723 units at 132 South Deane Highway, and Olson Road has 698 units. They yield a annual property tax of over $200,000 to $240,000 a year.
Each unit?
Each one of those?
Complex.
Oh,
What do you estimate this one to
Each page
be?
of the documents. It's just an observation.
What do you
that these-
think this one is?
These are tax yielding units that are pretty complement the tax base.
Is that
Just for the
200
record, George, just for the record.
Is that 200,000 times 620? Is that what you're saying?
You and Rich have the same mindset, huh?
You're an expert statewide assessor, and you can't come up with an assessment on this building?
you just did.
I just
He
did.
literally
You
just did.
Oh, I didn't quite hear that.
Watch it on TV.
okay, so,
What's the replay?
just to be clear, it's in the motion that the outside storage area is limited to 5,000 square feet. Okay.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I
Tom?
think we've got it all. Anybody else?
I think Tom does, sure.
No, I just want to say that I think, you know, I'm optimistic that this is finally a viable use for this property. I mean, unfortunately, you know, a lot of the other ideas that have come before us have, you know, been either economically or physically unfeasible for one reason or another. And, you know, this one, I think, serves an economic purpose and frankly, takes advantage of some of the shortcomings of the property that had been impediments to alternative developments.
Yeah, I would agree with my chairman on this one, that I have not liked a lot of what was proposed in the past, including residential facilities down in the hole, as I used to call it, and so that this seems to be the right thing, and it's a good proposal. I learned to favor it after the proposed hearing tonight, so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
that's my
I agree with all that, and would just thank the applicant for the thoroughness of the presentation, as well as a willingness to be responsive to some of the concerns of the adjacent residents as well.
And I would just say that the limit of staff recommendations are due to the fact that they've been, you know, working with us over the past, you know, several months to make revisions that reflect any comments that we had.
All right, good. All right, anybody else? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? Congratulations, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
All right, other business.
There's no other business.
Okay. March 21st minutes. I think the only comment I had on page 7, Commissioner Lambruni asked if the Russian math school would be included within the definition of school in the zoning regulations. And I said no, but 2 lines below it says I said yes to both.
For
Would that
clarification,
change,
the question was
Mr.
asked,
Chairman?
and then you read the definition that we have in the regulation, so I'll look.
Okay, yeah, I
Back
read
in
the
the record.
definition, then he asked if the Russian math school would be included, and
Okay.
then Paul asked if that included elementary,
Okay.
so it'd be no to the Russian math, yes to the elementary.
With that correction, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
I abstain as well.
Okay,
Same.
all right, so we have fortunately 5 people who vote in favor of it then.
You know, you guys can still, you don't, all you gotta do is read these and you can vote on them. You don't have to be here. Chairman said that many times.
All right.
I was caught up into the 300-page
Well,
printout
if there's an
for
ethical
tonight's
issue,
meeting.
Well, we'll give you the next ones on microfiche or something, so that, staff report.
All right, I have a few things to report. We did get submission today of the Doro Mylars, so Rich has them here to sign those. I would anticipate they'll, pull the building permit in the next few days and get started on that pretty quickly. We've received the revised plans for the Starbucks drive-through on the Silas Deane Highway. Those were also approved, so they will be submitting the Mylars shortly. The final plans for the Starbucks on 1862 Berlin Turnpike was submitted this afternoon, so staff will review those and determine if they need any revisions.
Excuse me, Denise, what's taking them so long over there on the Berlin Turnpike, for the Starbucks thing? I mean, it's been about 6 months, hasn't it?
They had to deal with MDC and some plan reviews and also just, modifications of the floor plan due to Starbucks.
Oh, okay. Thank you, glad to hear it's coming along.
So the third Starbucks on my update, 24 Maple Street, there is a application pending before the Historic District Commission that was tabled on Tuesday evening, or last Tuesday evening. So if they receive commission approval, they will proceed to wetlands and then come before planning and zoning for a special permit. This would replace the ABC Burger approval from a few years ago.
I thought that was a dead issue down there in the corner for Starbucks, no?
It's a dead
You're gonna
issue
have
for
two of them
ABC.
that close to each other?
People like coffee.
Okay.
They're not the coffee location police.
We just approved a storage
Wait
location
till
across the
DOT
street
gets
from
a hold
another.
of this one, if they ever do.
They had worked, one of the holdups for the Maple Street location was they were working with the fire marshal on the queuing for the drive-through. At the next meeting, 5/3, we have 662 Silas Deane Highway, that's for the U-Haul accessory use. And then a little bit further out, we have 310 Hartford Avenue, that is a home occupation due to a zoning compliance follow-up. 1045 Silas Deane Highway is in the Wethersfield Shopping Center. There's a fit-up for Honey Pot. It's a ramen place. They're going to be coming before you for a liquor permit. Yesterday, we received an application for 691 Silas Deane Highway. That's the Max Bebo's location. There is someone interested in purchasing the business. They would continue the Max Bebo name, and they would be looking to planning and zoning for a liquor permit and outdoor dining. We also have a text amendment pending for office uses, permitted office uses definition. And there will be an upcoming application for Executive Square for a Dish Wireless installation. Other than property specific, I anticipate issuing the RFP for the Affordable Housing Plan next week. Last Thursday evening, I attended a joint meeting of the Bike Walk Wethersfield and Bike Walk Rocky Hill at Heirloom Market. I was really happily surprised with the attendance. There was probably 40 to 50 people. It was a really productive conversation. There were updates about the Putnam Bridge and some other projects in town.
You talk about Monday night now? Was it? The meeting?
The meeting was last Thursday.
Last
evening.
Thursday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Um,
Wrong day.
Our plan of development is expiring at the end of May. So we are going to begin the process of updating. I've been doing research in the background to get examples of recent RFPs, and that is almost ready to go out. But at the same time, because of the expiration, I was hoping to propose some amendments to the commission for adoption to bridge the time period for the next year or so. So we're not expired during that time. 2 weeks ago on Thursday, we had an annual dinner of the CFPZA at the AquaTurf. George, Tom, Rich, and Paul and Peter and I attended. There were good speakers, a couple topics about affordable housing, and we got some educational training hours that everybody needs now, so maybe next year the rest of you consider attending. And the last thing I have to talk about is there have been issues with quorums at a few of the meetings, and some of the feedback that I've gotten is that for shorter or less involved meetings, is it possible to do some of those meetings as Zoom? So that would be a conversation for the group to have going forward. As an example, the next meeting, the only thing that we have is the U-Hauls for 662.
All right.
No compliment about the Yukon Huskies, huh? Had everything else to say. That's okay.
We'll give her another chance next year,
Next
right?
year.
Sorry. Missed the most important thing.
That's right.
They're gonna repeat, so it's fine.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Denise?
Move to adjourn?
No, public comment.
Rob O'Connor, 180 Main Street. I didn't intend on coming back here, and I don't really know how to describe this, but it's just more a point of order. During the last public meeting, the chairman instructed everybody to not make it personal and make it about the application. And I think I did that. You guys can tell me whether I did or not, but I ended up sitting in the audience and hearing what year I bought my house, how many phone calls I made, and basically what a liar I was. I'm only coming back up here because when I walked out to go home, I had a brief meeting with the applicants, not of my choice. And I'm going to write a letter and tell you what they said and what was said. But I think it stemmed from the gavel could have been hit and said, what do you know, just keep it on the subject. This is about their application, as sloppy and messy as it was. And he and the next person got to do a dance on me, which I don't appreciate. So I don't know whether I'm not a lawyer, but there's probably legal things in there that I'm going to review the tape and see what was said, but I certainly wasn't telling anybody what year my house was bought and where I sit and where my cameras are and anything else got said. So I appreciate you guys listening, but I'm not happy with the result, to say the least. And what I heard outside and what was said to me was enough to know that you guys made the wrong decision again tonight. So, but thank you for your your volunteer efforts. I always appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right.
What's up, Tom?
Okay, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.